Welcome back, everybody. This is Vash, and today we're going to talk about Pipewire and why this is a big deal for the audio scene. So it's been a while since my last video. I've been just busy with other things, and I just haven't really had a lot that I really thought would be a good thing to talk about for a video. But Pipewire was recently added to the Fedora 34 beta. We talked a little bit about it on the low rent Big Daddy Linux lives that Cubicle Nate and I have been kind of hosting. And there were a lot of questions about why Pipewire was a big deal. So I wanted to take a few minutes and try to give a bit further information about that. So I am running Manjaro currently, and I am using Pipewire for all of my Linux audio. And we're going to talk about why that's a big deal in just a minute. But let's talk a little bit about the video portion of Pipewire. I'm not going to focus very much on it, but I do want to touch on what kind of it does. So the video portion of Pipewire is about multimedia, or video players. For example, MPV, I believe, uses something called GStreamer as part of it. You can replace GStreamer with Pipewire. The other video piece that's going to be really nice for some people is that it's able to let you capture your screen in Wayland. And if you actually look over here, this is the Pipewire website we're looking at right now. I will have this link in the description. But if you actually head over to the Arch Wiki, they have an article about it. They have some installation information, and then they have some video. So like this WebRTC, so rely on X11 for capturing blah, 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 blah. On Wayland, the sharing mechanism is handled differently. And so this is talking about that and what you can kind of do to try to do that. There is something about video here, and this is we're talking about GStreamer. So you're able to kind of use it for video playback somewhat, and the audio portion. So let's dig more into that. So Pipewire is really designed to replace ALSA, Pulse, and Jack. And there's a reason why this is a big deal, and we'll kind of get a bit further into that. But first, I want to talk a little bit more about Jack, just because I don't think very many people, are really using it unless you're trying to get into like music production or, something really heavy audio-wise, and that's just not a lot of people in Linux. So I am a novice. I know just enough to be dangerous on the audio side. So this is just my understanding. So we have Pulse, which is what most people tend to interact with their Linux system with. We have ALSA, which, if I recall correctly, is more of a direct access to the hardware. It's not generally as user-friendly. And then we have Jack. And Jack is trying to tie into Pulse and ALSA, but it's really about, like, it used to, you'd have to use a real-time kernel, a low-latency kernel. I don't think that's as big of a deal nowadays, as far as I understand. A lot of the more current, the more modern Linux kernels, you'll do just fine with it. There are still low-latency kernels out there if you want them. But from what I understand, that's not as big of a deal now as it was a couple years ago. But Jack has been the thing that people use for pro audio on Linux, because it's a very low latency, close to real time, a way to implement audio. The problem is that not all applications are Jack aware. So an application has to be quote unquote Jack aware, or Jack has to be aware of how to tie into that application, basically. So not every application could actually take advantage of Jack or be tied into Jack very easily. And the other thing was, it is a bit of a challenge to set up for a lot of people. And, I've looked around at forum posts and videos talking about it, and some of them are useful, some of them are not as useful. It really just depends. And everybody's setup is so unique that it gets a little difficult to try to get to that point for a lot of people. So Pipewire, like I mentioned, is designed to replace all three of these. And the cool part is it's a drop-in replacement. So you don't have to wait for a bunch of apps to become Pipewire aware. Pipewire, as long as your application works with Pulse or also or Jack, Pipewire will just work. It should just be a straight plugin. As you see here, there's a package called Pipewire also. There's a package called Pipewire Pulse. And there is a package called Pipewire Jack. It's back up here. It's not mentioned down there for some reason. Right here. Pulse and Pipewire Jack, I believe, is over here as well. But yeah, there it is. So ultimately, you've got that. There is a session manager, and I don't quite understand what sessions are. So I'm sorry, don't ask me because I don't know. But there is a session manager that is, but it's all command line based, called, I believe, Wire Plumber. So it's not exactly the most friendly thing, but since we do have, I've uninstalled Pulse, and I've installed Pipewire Pulse, Pipewire Jack, Pipewire also, and Pipewire itself. And so I have my system entirely running on Pipewire. This is being recorded right now on Pipewire. And from what I can tell, everyday stuff, this runs just fine. It seems to not quite be as good yet on the Jack stuff, but I think it's getting there, and it's mostly my Jack applications have been crashing. It could be something entirely on my setup. So I don't want to push too badly on the Pipewire piece, but it could be because it could entirely be something on my end that I just need. If I reinstalled Arch here, and I went straight Arch instead of Manjaro, I may be able to make that a bit more cooperative. I don't know. I may try that at some point. But I did want to point out, I'm also going to have a link in the description to this thread. What is the correct way to install Manjaro Pipewire? Because it was a little bit trickier than I was expecting it to be. Because I believe it's this. No, right here, I believe. Yes. So you have to remove like Manjaro Pulse, Pipewire. You have to remove all that. And then you have to run this command right here to remove all your Pulse audio stuff, because one of them is connected to the other one. There's some of this stuff that this person has, like this equalizer here. I didn't have that, so I just took that off. But you just kind of, most of this other stuff you should probably have if you have a Manjaro install. I went ahead and reinstalled Pipewire, or I did install Pipewire Pulse. So that's something a little bit different I did. And then I ran this command here to get these. I didn't install PulseFX though, but I ran a Manjaro Pipewire, Pipewire itself, and then Pipewire Pulse, Pipewire Jack, Pipewire also. And then that got everything up and running. I didn't worry about screen sharing because, again, that's not what I'm concerned about. So the cool thing about Pipewire, beyond being a drop-in replacement, is that since it's a drop-in replacement for Jack, Pulse, and also, you don't have to worry if an application is Jack aware, because Pipewire is taking care of all of that. So that application that you really liked, maybe that music player that you really liked, it's now Pipewire aware. You can actually include it in your session manager, in your patch bay. Let me open this up. So I've been playing around with this morning, and what I've done is I've actually set up this sidechain here to provide some background music. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to end up using this. This was more an experiment to try to show what you can kind of do in Pipewire that I don't think you can do in Pulse Audio, at least not as easily. I know there's a program out there called PulseFX. It's really good for what it is, but it is also limited to Pulse. And Pulse can do some funny things. It can be a little odd sometimes. It has some latency in it. So, there are things where it's not ideal if you're really trying to get deep. And those effects in PulseFX often add more latency. So what I've done here is I'm going to turn on some music in just a second. I've got some royalty-free music here that I've downloaded. And I'll have a link to the site where I got this below. But what I've done is I've set this up. So now when I talk, the music will automatically compress and be a lot quieter. So I'm hoping that I have the volume levels okay for this. We're just gonna see how this goes. You'll notice immediately when I start talking again that the volume will duck down. So this could be really cool if you're trying to do like a podcast and you want to have background music for certain segments. This could be cool if you're doing like a recording and you want to have background music and you don't want to try to add that in post and then do a bunch of compression to duck down when you're talking, things like that. So there's just some nice things. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the setup here, but for now, I'm just going to go ahead and start playing music here and we will see how this goes. So now we've got it really loud and now it gets down a lot quieter because I'm talking again. And so it just backs it off and I've got it actually set up and I'll bring into the settings in a second what I've done to do this. And I may even need to take it a bit lower in the recording just to make sure that I've got it good because it is a little on the loud side. Okay, it actually looks okay on the recording, but I've got it coming loud through my headset. So anyway, let me pause this music and we will go back to Carla here. This is Carla. It is in the Arch repository, if I recall. So if I so you can right click, you can hit add plugin. I just added the Kayla, this thing. I just added this thing, the Calf, Sidechain compressor. If you do that, you hit show custom UI, you'll get this. And this is the setup I have right here. And I have this turned on. I have it way strong in the ratio and stuff, and I have it about a second coming back up after I finish talking. A lot of this settings, don't worry about it. Not super important for what we're talking about. I just did want to show this, that you could actually do it this way. If you hit edit instead, it's a lot more difficult to understand what it's trying to do. I don't understand all these settings. I just know enough to get to this point. So what else could I do with this? So you'll notice I have a Sidechain 2 here. If I had like Zoom or I had Discord or whatever VoIP app up here, I could theoretically have that plugged in and have that go into Sidechain 2. So I could have it so that if I had a guest on the podcast or a guest in a video, maybe I was talking to Cubicle Nate and we were doing a video together, I could actually have the music duck out when either one of us are talking. Or I could not. Maybe I don't want people hearing what Cubicle Nate says. I mean, it just depends. So I can set that up any way I want. If I want to, I could do all kinds of different things with this. I know this looks a little confusing. It can get really confusing if you have an app like Mixbus. Mixbus can get a lot of different options here. It can get a little confusing on what you're looking at, but once you kind of understand it, it's not nearly as complicated as it seems. But I mean, ultimately, all I'm doing is so here's where the music's coming out of. You see Strawberry right here. That's the music app I'm using. I do not believe that app is jack aware. So without Pipewire, I don't think I could actually use Strawberry for this. But I have, instead of going straight over here to my OBS or straight over here to my playback, this is where it's coming out of my headphones. I have it going down into this sidechain compressor and then coming out from that. So that's the way it's kind of working. And then this is my microphone, and I'm having it go to the sidechain, and then I'm actually having it go directly to OBS itself. So that's kind of how it all fits together. That's why I'm personally really excited about Pipewire. It's been a little flaky, a little glitchy on stuff with Jack this morning. I've been playing around with this. I think, yeah, it's just been this morning. I've been playing around with this. I finally got it to cooperate here in Carla, but I just have a lot of Jack apps crashing, like Ardour. I've had it crashing with Pipewire, and Mixbus. I've had it crashing with Pipewire. And again, that could just be my setup. But I really think this could be a big deal for Linux audio. I am very happy with what I've seen so far. I am cautiously optimistic that this could be a bit of a game changer for a lot of Linux audio stuff that could really simplify this. Because the biggest thing to me with Jack and Pulse, so for those that are not familiar with Jack and Pulse, you could do things like this in Jack, but oftentimes to, go back to more normal computer usage, you'd be better off going back to Pulse. And so you'd have to switch back and forth. It would generally involve a lot of restarting because, something wouldn't quite start back up right, or Pulse wouldn't decide it was not going to do right, or, whatever. I'm sure eventually with the right, scripts and things like that, I could have got it to all cooperate and function like I wanted to, but I often just found it was easiest just to reboot the computer and go from there if I really wanted to switch back and forth. This, I don't have to do that. There are some things that I think we're going to have to get figured out. So for example, if you start a video, or you start something in Firefox, it's going to pop up and have your Firefox in here, just like Strawberry is right here. But if you start playing something else, it's going to create another input and another input and another input, and it looks like it does that every single time you create something else, another input in Firefox. So it can be something where if you're trying to do a sidechain or some kind of audio effect directly in your software like this, then it may be a little bit more difficult to do that. With Strawberry, it seems to kind of stick with that. I haven't messed around with it too much. It may be something where if I really hit stop and actually, stop playing mute sound entirely, that it'll go away. But that's something that I think, with time, I can probably figure out how to make cooperate. And I'm still having some issues with Carla, but even when Carla crashes, a lot of times my sound still works. It's not like when Jack would, something would happen with Jack and I would basically be stuck to reboot before I could actually get things coming back up with sound. So I'm very cautiously optimistic, but I'm feeling like this is in a pretty solid place especially for everyday users. For those of us that want to do a little bit more with it, like I'm trying to do, I don't think it's quite there yet. But I think for Fedora 34, if it's this smooth in that, and maybe I'll try to see if I can get it installed on bare metal somewhere and play with it. But I think for day-to-day stuff, it's gonna be pretty good because it just all is there. It's no different looking from the. Let me see if I can bring up the audio window real quick. So it's not really any different looking than, here we go. So it's not really any different looking than any other audio. And actually, my audio window is getting cut off at the top here. There we go. So, these are my audio devices. This looks no different than it does under Pulse. You can't even tell I'm running something different. But I will show you how you can tell. One more thing here. Terminal. Fast, but I like it better. So if I go and type, I think that's it. Yeah, here we go. So you'll notice Pulse down here under server name, Pulse Audio on Pipewire 0.3.23. And that's the only difference. As far as the system's concerned, I'm running Pulse and Jack and Ulsa. That's that. I hope this was informative. I hope this was useful and kind of gives you an idea of what some of the things you could actually potentially do with Jack and Pipewire and everything. I'm really I'm really excited about this because I think the jack piece, I really hope that this can be the replacement for jack that everybody has been wanting for a long time. Because, like I say, it's just a lot more complicated to set up for the average person. They're not going to try to read through the documentation and things like that. So I am very hopeful that this is going to do what we need it to do. I mean, even me being the super novice at audio, I got this running this morning. And I mean, I started from not having it installed to having it actually working in Carla in a morning, and that's pretty good in my opinion for me, just because there's not a lot of documentation out there. Like I didn't have to look up how do I make Pulse Pipewire aware or accessible in Carla. I just had to start Carla with jack. And there is one more thing I want to point out. So there is a really easy way to tell your application, clear this out. There's a really easy way to tell your application that you want to launch it under Pipewire jack. And all you got to do is run pw jack and then the name of the application. It's like pw jack Carla, pw jack Ardour 6, things like that. If you run pw jack and in the application name, it picks up that you're running Pulsefire, you're running jack, is what the application thinks. And then you just set the application to run through jack. So you just pick, if you're running Ardour here, you just tell it you're running jack, and it picks it up just like that. That's all you had to do. You don't have to go into a bunch of settings. You don't have to do anything else. You just have to type pdb jack and type your application name and launch it. So I will wrap it up here. And thanks for watching. And hopefully, like I say, hopefully this was useful and gave you an idea of what Pipewire is, why some people are really excited about it, and why I'm personally excited about it. Have a great one, guys, and I will see you hopefully sooner than the break between the last videos.